so many drain pictures.
She's got a name like that. I used to work with a girl in. She's from.
Really?
And his merry men.
Yeah.
No drains.
What's her name? Ailey. Oh, great. Thanks.
Should we get him best
I don't know what happened. My name is Ailey, and everybody says Ailey.
Quite a lot of them.
I said, "Oh, is it Eileen?" She said, "That's what I said."
I said, yeah. This one's quite fierce, actually. But,
I never met an alien who wasn't.
That's so funny. She thinks she's saying Eileen.
Oh, here we are again.
That's so good. And everybody calls her Aileen.
she's still on that.
Lynn says from
You got what? Victory Gym?
she's part of the team.
Yeah, they used to be. Okay.
She was talking about you actually.
Times of yore, where that would be the drink.
So
meeting.
are we going to be live? All right. So there we go. So Connor, let us know when we're live.
You are live, Your Worship? At the moment.
So I'd like to welcome everybody to this extraordinary meeting of Glastonbury Town Council. Connor, do we have any public participation this evening?
Yes, Your Worship. There's one lady who wishes to address full council. Her name is Madeline Land, and she'd like to speak on the condition of the roads. I wrote that on in front of you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. If only I'd got that far down the agenda, I would have seen. Madeleine, please, would you like to speak to the council? If you come to the end of the table there, there's a microphone and we will be able to hear what you're saying, and so will the people at home. Thank you.
I was expecting just to listen, but I will attempt to gather my thoughts. I hesitate to raise this because I'm quite sure there is a very great deal of demand upon resources for the roads. But I just wanted to come and mention two relatively minor potholes on Actis Road. The only reason I mention it is because in the 15 months that I've been living here, they've started to get a little bit deeper by the month. So I'm sure they are by no means the worst potholes in the whole of Glastonbury and everywhere else. But I just mention them in case, if at the end of the demands on your money, there was however much it costs to just put something in the little potholes to stop them getting any worse. I thought I would just flag it up so that on the principle of a stitch in time saves 9. So that's really all I wanted to request. I will say that on the way driving here, I wasn't really paying attention, but I was thinking and chatting, but I did notice we went into them. So they are noticeable even if you're not paying attention. So that's all I want to say. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much. Madeleine, I don't know whether you would be happy to light our unity candle. We light the candle at the beginning of every meeting and we observe a silent minute. Yes. So there should be some lighting device by the candle.
So it's in there. Lighter in there.
Oh, thank you. So I'm not entirely sure how. Is this just a sort of?
Yeah, just pull the trigger and it should. Yeah.
And this candle is a unity candle.
The unity candle.
That's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. So if you'd like to stand with me, councillors, and we will observe a silent minute. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So tonight's meeting is to consider highways works, but before we get into the agenda, do we have any apologies this evening?
I haven't received any.
A few more.
Thank you. Yes.
I wonder if I could just come back to Madeleine's point about potholes a minute, just in case she doesn't understand who is responsible for that.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Before we carry on, I was just going to mention that a pothole issue, which is we all know is a big issue throughout Somerset, probably further afield as well, is a county council issue. So the town council hasn't any money to do that sort of work, but we will certainly pass that on. And I thought there was some sort of fund or some pot arranged. So pardon my pun, but I thought there was some money put aside for that very purpose. So I think we'll certainly get onto them, because there's several around the town that definitely need looking at.
Well, can I just mention where it is, because Actis Road.
Yeah.
It's actually opposite the junction with Southfields.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And I'm sure if there's a fund for fixing holes, that Councillor Henderson will look into it. So we now come to declarations of interest. I think we all know who's the county councillor sat around the table.
I was going to say that, yeah.
So item 3, to consider highway works to request Somerset County Council to complete during the coming year. And I think these will include sort of traffic regulation orders, if we thought about those, and any other comments that we may wish to make. And I believe that Connor is going to keep a note of the issues that we raise, and that will then be sent to both councillors for us on the county. And I think probably the best way to move forward with this is perhaps to go around the table and just for each councillor to say whether there are any issues with the roads that they wish to for the county council to pick up on. And hopefully by the time we get right around the table, we'll have covered the whole town and the environs. And Nick may be wishing he hadn't asked us. So I think if we start with you, Steve, and we'll come back around this way. And
Are we standing?
I think we will dismiss with standing tonight, as it's perhaps less formal.
Okay, well, only two I think need some attention come to my mind. There's one is the exit and entrance to the Paradise Estate, which I have asked to be put on the TRO list several years in a row. There's generally cars parked either side of that junction. Visibility is terrible. You've got Manor House Road coming to you from the opposite side, and I just think double yellows along there would be a good idea. I know the little corner shop opposite park all their vehicles opposite, so they might not be too happy, but I still think for safety's reasons we need to do that. And the only other one that springs to mind is Garvin's Close, I think it's called, which is the sort of joining road between Benedict Street and Sedgemoor Way.
Yeah.
Opposite Bellevue Gardens, there's quite often 4 or 5 dormobiles, camper vans parked there, and because there's no yellows anywhere, double yellows anywhere along there, they park right up to the junction, which again makes that junction onto Sedgemoor Way quite difficult. I'm tempted to say not to put double yellows all the way along Garvin's Way, Garvin's Close, whatever it's called, because I think there are white lines on this end, the Benedict Street end, and I think there's a couple of them, which I think is advisory, and I think people maybe park their residents park there, but don't actually leave their vehicles there all day, whereas the other side has got no restrictions at all, and it does get quite chocker. So you've got a one single lane highway with Bellevue Gardens and Carmine Close both coming out onto that, which causes a lot of stopping and starting.
Before we get any further, I noticed that the clerk has opened his second computer this evening, and I wonder whether you're looking at maps.
I will be when it's cooperating.
Would it be wise? Thank you. So,
actually, if you've been watching, I did actually point it out on the table here with my feet.
For viewers,
Well, yeah, I knew exactly where it, yeah.
for members of the public viewing from home, although this looks like a flat table, it's actually a terrained table where we see an entire map of Glastonbury and its environs, and Councillor Henderson is indeed pointing towards the appropriate road.
The app is Google Table.
The only thing missing, of course, is the tour. It's covered by a water bottle. So
those two are the only ones that I'd like to mention at the moment. One point though, could we tag the pothole issue onto the end of this letter?
I think so, yes.
Thanks.
They can be reported online as well.
Yeah, they can. Yeah.
So while Connor is making the maps available to us, we'll move on around the table.
In terms of potholes, I'm not aware of any. It has been brought to my attention, though, in this recent coal spell, that the pavements are not getting gritted. So a few people have sort of bent my ear on that matter.
I noticed that the pavement outside St John's Church was gritted this evening because this morning it was like a sheet bicep. Somebody must have.
Well, this was actually in Dodd Lane as well, where I was specifically.
I don't feel there's anything, and I may be wrong here, there's nothing to stop members of the public who may be by a gritter from putting some grit out just to, if they wish to.
I was concerned that I had a look in the grit bin and didn't like what she saw, so that was the problem.
I see.
So we're saying the grip bins need checking.
That one in Dodd Lane, yeah.
Probably all of them, actually. I can't imagine Dodd Lane is alone.
That could be a job for our town hall staff to pop round and have a look at them.
Nick and Jackie checked all of the grip bins probably 1 or 2 months ago at the request of the County Council and sent back to the County Council which ones needed filling up and which ones needed work. So that was done at the request of the County Council, going and checking all the grip bins, because I had to ask them for a map of where they were.
Okay, well, I'll follow that up. Anyway, that one's an easy one to follow up.
Thank you.
Are we allowed to talk about parking, or are we just on roads?
Nick?
Oh, if you've got a parking issue, yeah, sure.
Okay, first thing though, I'm going to, just because somebody brings it up at our surgeries quite regularly, the sets outside here, and yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I hate them. I didn't realise how awful they were, but apparently it causes mayhem to the carnival because the ones that are like tableaus, when they go over it, they wobble and they lose points, and this is a terribly traumatic thing for some people. So they want
like the raised bits. Oh, I see. All right.
for some.
The cobble stuff, they want tarmacking over or ripping. Yeah.
They really are rubbish. And when I drove over them the other day, I thought actually he's got a point.
That's what they were originally, Linz, but then if you remember, they put the tarmac up and levelled them up when they came back.
They'll do that.
Me and Clokey were having an argument about it, actually, because he said no, that one came before the other, but it wasn't. Those what were humps at the time were in first, and then when they came along because of some competition, they reached the road, and they levelled them up.
Well, councillors, although we're not standing, please do raise your hand if you wish to speak. Councillor Cook.
Sorry, can I continue?
Well, I think, were you wishing to say something to this?
The sense thing.
Not forgetting that it's the motorists who contribute most, isn't it, to the roads? And really, the roads, those things do need levelling over because they're so bad for. I've lost 2 tyres on, I think, on both of these. For low-profile tyres, they're a nightmare, absolute nightmare. So, it's costing. When it's costing you £150 to drive over a flipping ramp like that, and there's no other way around it, it does get a little bit tedious, to say the least. And I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one. There's people that don't actually drive down this road because of them.
Thank you. I think what we'll do is, if each councillor says what they want to say, and then we'll have a little gap and we can comment on what they've said. But just to respect the councillors, if you'd like to continue.
And my other thing is, I would really like to see the introduction of residence parking permits, particularly in the town centre. I live in St John's Square, and there are 8 free places there which are not at the moment designated as residence parking bays, but I believe there was a time when they were going to be, but for some reason it never happened. But I would really like to see them designated, and the ones that are like an hour for free around the edges, they could be residence badges and an hour for free for anybody else, because they're always empty because nobody uses them. And what we had in Guildford, where I used to live, was they zoned the areas and you had a badge for your area. So suppose you gave people a badge for St John's Square, you charged them, I think it was 50 quid for a bigger car, 40 quid for a littler car, and free for an electric car. And that covers the administrative costs. And at the moment, it costs as much, I think it's over 600 quid for an annual parking thing in St John's Square. Mm-hmm. And what is particularly frustrating is that even if you buy it, you can't always park there. And that is usually because a lot of the spaces are taken up by long wheelbase vehicles, which are not charged extra, despite the fact they're taken up to, and I've got photos on here. Just this afternoon, I took 2 photographs of huge vehicles which come in about 5 o'clock so that they can use the toilets all night. And I really think those long wheelbase vehicles should all have to park by proper job where the coaches have to park.
Thank you. So, councillors, there were the former humps in the road that are now kind of all got oddly shaped pieces of brick lying around. There was only one you received. Did you wish to speak?
Well, I was just going to say, as well as the point that Rick made about damage to your vehicle, several residents in Magdalen Street have complained to me about the amount of vibration that causes in their houses. Yeah. You know, which is obviously if you've got a busy day or heavy vehicles, whatever. And I know it's a traffic calming thing, but you know, as we've got a 20-mile zone, we should really be able to get rid of them and still have sensible driving. And can I just come back to Margaret? Lilith's point. Obviously, you can get residents parking in Glastonbury. You know, if a group of residents get together and all agree, you can apply to the county council and get it that way.
Yeah, I have got the forms to fill in.
Thank you. So 2 councillors over here. I'm not sure which one of you had your hand up first, but
putting my hand up to agree. That's all.
Great.
Shouting out. As a cyclist, basically. Also, the along Magdalen Street are tyre they're awful. I have to literally. I know now where there's almost a straight bit. Otherwise, everything in my basket goes up. They are horrific.
Thank you. So I think that seems to have a lot of support, Magdalen Street. And of course, it's where anyone coming into the town who wants to park in the town centre and the buses all have to go through it. So you'll perhaps prioritise that. I don't know, Nick.
I think that might be right at the top, actually.
Yeah. Okay. So Rick, you're next.
Well, apart from what we've just set up, we would have said those. But the other one that strikes me as being a little bit, well, definitely requiring yellow lines is the coming off Street Road, coming from Street, along Street Road, turning left into Tallage and Morrison's. There's a road there where people are parking right on the edge to Street Road. So you cannot possibly see anybody that's walking, especially behind a van or a lorry or anything like that. It's lethal, absolutely lethal.
Yeah. Good point.
Because it is full. You know, right down to the turning into tall leisure.
Yeah.
So you'll have kids coming out there, all kinds.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it, right on that corner there. See where that bike's gone past, just there, that's it, on the left there. It's only there, not on the other side, but obviously just that side. And that's residents are parking there overnight. I've seen one getting out and then, you know, so.
And you're thinking double yellows could resolve that?
It has to.
Yeah.
It has, something has to.
Yeah.
Something else, yeah, they might put.
Yeah.
Chevron.
Exactly, anything.
Okay.
I mean, what about a zebra crossing there? I'll stop it. Probably not. But.
The lines would work, I think, better. It's complicated, isn't it?
Ian, have you? Was that all? Rick, was that all?
Sorry, and residents parking in Benedict Street. But like you just said, yeah, that's the way to go forward. I mean, it's not my ward, but you know, I live there, so I do talk to people, and they say, yeah, that would be a great idea because we're getting more and more and more vans.
And there's double parking down Benedict Street, I've noticed lately, which is, you know, don't want that to get out of hand.
So I think what we might return to, one of the things we might return to is resident parking permits at the end. So we have a bit of a general discussion about that. Ian?
Yeah. Some time ago, one of my neighbours suggested that in Benedict Street, where you turn right into Garvin's Road, quite often cars come along Benedict Street in that direction and they swing round into Garvin's Road a bit hastily and find themselves immediately confronted by a car coming the other way. And although it is 2 lanes, people park, which is quite helpful actually. Well, it extends the parking of Benedict Street into Garvin's Road, and I think some of the people that live on the corner sometimes park there. So given that if that parking continues to be permitted, but accepting that the road is then narrowed because of it, his idea was that the, you see there's a school there, that's Garvin's Road, yeah. And also there's a school on the corner. So if people come down Benedict Street, might encounter people dropping off children or collecting them, young preschool children. And if there were white lines across so that they didn't feel that they had priority to make that swing round into Garvin's Road but had to stop there, it might just diminish the possibility of an accident at that junction, which feels like it. I've never seen one there, but it's hard to believe there hasn't been one.
Thank you very much. I mean, I think one thing I have never really thought about is that there's traffic calming by the infant school, or the primary school, but there's none down by the Montessori school, and yet they're going to have children going in. So that might be something worthwhile. Serena? Sorry, Michael, Serena.
With regard to Garvin's Road and that junction, as a cyclist, it's absolutely treacherous because the cyclist is going straight on down Benedict Street to go across the bypass where the pedestrian crossing is. But when you're coming this way, you've got the cars swinging round and you're trying to get across, and right of way is not clear at all. So something does need to be done about that, whether it's a mini roundabout or what, I don't know. But it's for cyclists, it's really dangerous there.
Thank you. Michael White and then Michael Smile.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to say, so the Montessori school's on the corner here, and then you have got those white lines there. So maybe they could be something else. So that's probably for dropping off the kids there, isn't it?
Advisory.
Yeah. Maybe it could be.
Which is what I was saying earlier on. I think this end where the white lines are probably okay because apart from certain times, sorry, Chair, that tends to be clear. It's the opposite end of Garvin's Road where the problem seems to be worse. But yeah, I appreciate it. And I've got a feeling, just going back to the junction of Benedict Street, I got a feeling that originally the junction was on Garvin's Road and Benedict Street was still a straight road. Then they changed it.
They changed it when they did the bypass.
Yeah.
Councillor Smythe, you've been very patient.
My point was exactly the same as what Steve has just said. It did have, the junction was completely the opposite. Used to be able to continue straight on down Benedict Street. So that would kind of alleviate what Serena's saying if it was reverted back to the way it was. But I think as people turn right, Ian said, into Garvin's Road, quite often there are cars parked immediately on the left-hand side, which means you're turning right, coming along Benedict Street, and you immediately have to stop because there's something coming in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So I would recommend that the yellow lines are on the left immediately for that reason. And possibly the junction even changed as to how it used to be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It seems to be the natural way of things.
I will add to that though, Mike, that it was the town council who asked for that to be put in the way the direction around it goes. A previous administration, I will add. But it was, that's what happened there.
Well, they were always turning to the right. Councillor Cook.
There are yellow lines there now on that corner.
On the left.
Yes, there are. Looking at it from this view, definitely on the left, yes, because when living in Benedict Street, you do experience a hell of a lot of problems come the weekend with just the whole place being choked up with vans and cars, and then the pub, of course, and during the week also people going to work and parking. So it's really difficult. It's got really difficult over the last 5 years to park down there, and so I end up parking down on that bit there on the left-hand side. And yellow lines have been recently put in, because one guy told me, Ed Pope told me, that you can't park on there even if it's a white line because you won't be insured. Now, first I've ever heard of that, so I don't know where that's come from. But if an accident did happen there, allegedly, you're not insured. So I immediately stopped parking there anyway. But I have noticed that there are yellow lines there now, going down to, you see where the name ends?
Yeah.
There, I think it's about there.
Okay.
So it's not coming round that corner and straight into the back of another car, which is where I used to be sometimes. So there's already an improvement there.
Watch out for your car then, Rick.
Well, I'm parked there now.
So we'll carry on round now. We've done Ian. If we go to Serena and then come back onto the table, is that okay?
Thank you. So I've got 3 different points. I was part of the LC whip that Mendip District Council did, and I attended their meetings. And so there's a request for cycle paths, Archer's Way, so that you can come into the high street as a cyclist. Because at the moment, there's no entry to the high street from that side of town.
Oh.
It's all blocked off. So if a cyclist could have a cycle bit through from where you come down, by the library and what's it called, Bucks Close car park, and that way that cyclists can get into the high street. That would be really helpful. To have cycle paths again in Northload Street for the same reason. At the moment, cyclists do go on the pedestrian bit on Northload Street, but we're not supposed to, but we do. But if that was made accessible for cyclists to get through to the Market Cross and all, to have a cycle lane in Wells Road. Now, there's a lot of buses and traffic and so on in Wells Road, and if you're a cyclist going along Wells Road, it's actually a little bit of a taking your life in your own hands scenario, and so I think it's wide enough that a cycle lane could be put down Wells Road, and it would be really helpful. Now, we've just been talking Benedict Street and that problem with Garvin's Road, but if we actually had a designated cycle lane, I know we can't do it at the very top where it's narrow, but after from the King Arthur pub, that bit, then that would mean that it's slightly less dangerous because cyclists could be in their own designated cycle path. The other one, which is impossible, but Chilcot Street, you have to cycle on the pavement. You cannot cycle on the road. Something desperately does need to be done. Yeah. And I don't quite know what the solution is, but I would like it to be noted that we have deaths in the offing if we aren't careful, because more and more people are cycling. I know I always go on the pavement going down Chilcot Street because I'm not going to go on that road with all that traffic. So please, something. So that all came out of the LC whip. One of our residents asked me to speak on their behalf about a speed camera in Beer Lane, because the traffic goes way beyond the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit that it ought to do. And she said she seemed to remember, I think it was you, John, mentioning, but somebody, about that we could make a bylaw with the ability to fine, which meant that we would actually earn money from all these speeding lorries. I don't know how real or true that is, but we could investigate.
Well, come back, we could put in a camera.
Put in the camera. And the other one, we asked for it about 30 years ago. It never happened. A 20-mile-an-hour speed limit for the whole of Windmill Hill estate. It's a housing estate. Cars, speed, children, all the rest of it. Please, could we have a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit for Windmill Hill? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments around those ones that have been raised there? Yes, Mike.
Yeah, I had on my list, and I've mentioned before, about all of Glastonbury being 20 miles an hour, because I've said, like, you go along Archer's Way, for example, and suddenly there's 30, or up Hill Head, and it changes to 30. Thorndoon Estate going off Wells Road is suddenly 30.
So we'll come back to that probably at the end. Was this related to what to Serena's? Yeah.
I'd just like to support the idea of 20 mile an hour limit at Windmill Hill. I've lived up there for some years. Absolutely crucial, I would say. And also support the ideas of cycle lanes throughout town to make it safe for cyclists. So more and more people are cycling. All those suggestions, very good.
Thank you. Margaret.
I've got 3 complaints from people that contact me. One is the caravans at the end of Torview Road that are causing a hazard there. There's about 4 caravans. Yeah. They don't seem to be lived in. They seem to be just left there. Okay. And they are right on the corner by the mini island. Yeah. And I've had a lot of complaints about people going around the island and having to pull in behind one of the caravans very quickly. As you can see, there's a few there. There's 2 there at the moment. Normally there's about 4. So with a bit of luck, 2 people have moved off. Occasionally they're right on the corner. No.
This isn't. This is.
No, this is back in 2017.
Right on the corner.
I think there's actually one there at the moment because
I know there was at least 4 there at one point. So and they just don't appear to be lived in. So whether people use them at weekends, I've no idea. So that was one. The other one was really a complaint that is made to me by the farmers, and that is the entrance from Cinnamon Lane onto Chinkwell Street, where people park, obviously to go to the Chalice Well, but they obstruct the view. And I agree with everything that Serena has said about Chinkwell Street. It's the most dangerous street I've ever come across. Howard, I think the Angel of Glastonbury must be looking over Chinkwell Street, because I cannot believe there isn't going to be an accident there and a fatality at some time. It is really dangerous. And the problem for the farmers are they're actually using that. They're coming up that way with their sheep, in the wagons at the back, and they're confronted by cars parked. So they've got 2 choices. They can't go back. No. So they've got to either scrape the car or go into the side of the hedge, and it is a real problem. And that has caused lots of complaints to me. Chinkwell Street, I don't know what we're going to do with Chinkwell Street. It is so dangerous. I was going down there the other day and there was a cyclist, there was me, behind him, a cyclist and a lorry, and I thought one of us is going to die, because the lorries are so huge. Yeah. They are now across the actual width of Chinkwell Street. It's incredibly difficult. So that's really the complaints I've had. And the only other one I observed myself, and it's going back to Magdalene Street, which is where all those little cobbles are, and that is the water that has gathered there, surface water that seems to have been there for days. Have you noticed it, Matt? And the other day I was walking down, because I actually try and walk in the town. I rarely bring my car into the town. I'd rather walk. But I walked on the opposite side of the road, and there was a motorist who went through this mini lake of water.
Yeah.
It went all over a pedestrian and 2 of his children.
Yeah.
It was really bad, and he did it on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Really, really bad, and that was a couple of days ago. And it was just there where it sort of dipped.
Yeah, you're right.
Rick?
Chilcool Street, as you're walking out of town towards Leggerley, on the left-hand side, just having crossed the road which turns left to the White Spring.
Yeah.
Yeah. The hedging along there is virtually non-existent, so it's all very well trying to cycle or walk up there, but you can't. There really needs a lot of cutback on a lot of the hedging in several areas, actually. I mean, like the Street Road was done last year.
Corsenbach, yes.
Corsenbach is where you mean, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's okay. That's up to the town council could write a letter to the people there.
There you go.
That wouldn't be a bad idea.
Done recently.
Yeah.
It needs a proper cutback now.
Certainly do with yellow line as well.
Look at it. That's terrible. It's certainly not suitable for pedestrian, or I don't think you can fit a pram in it along it.
Oh yeah.
Maybe want to, but come summer, when people are, etc. Instead of driving your damn car down to Leggerley, you can walk there, can't you? You can just about get away with it, but
So,
look, just where the sign is there.
So, Councillor Cottle, you mentioned us writing a letter. Do you believe that, or do you know that this is actually the landowner's responsibility, or is it something that highways could have a look
I can't
at?
say 100%, but I would 99% say that is the landowner's responsibility.
If the landowner doesn't cut it back, what then happens?
Do it.
Who is we?
Town council could do it.
Not the county council.
Maybe.
I mean, I have heard a rumour that you've got a lot more money than us.
Yeah, but we haven't got a lot. We've got to look at our debt.
Well, let's not talk about that.
Right, so we don't go into that. And then it can be charged to the owner. I think there's one particular house there that struggles to keep stuff back.
Okay.
Just the one, really.
Right.
And maybe a little talk to him might persuade him to tidy it up.
Thank you. Steve, and then Margaret.
Yeah, I think when Gary was the town warden, we did that to people. I think there was some properties in Roman Way that was encroaching right across the road. I think in the end they took no notice of any letters we sent. So Gary went up and did it, and we billed them for the work. Never got the money, and are we going to take somebody to court for that? Probably not. So that's the situation. You end up with the people.
Well,
they feel tend to think if I don't do it, the council will take care of it.
I'm going to come back on that because Steve is dead right. We've got two particular landowners in Roman Way. One of them was a former councillor, former mayor. His is
Can
quite.
you be more specific?
I don't think I can get more specific than that, can I? His definitely needs trimming back and been trimmed. Doing in, and then there's one farther along at number. I can probably tell you the number. I don't. Maybe I won't. Not in public now.
Probably shouldn't.
There's another one along there who needs it. Who needs his well and truly cut back.
Perhaps you could give us a clue by some of their past activities. So, Margaret.
I think this old, Connor.
Yeah.
Because I think just where those actual trees were, a house has been bought there now, and they are cutting back all the trees and moving upwards. So I think that will be help there.
That'll help.
But really, certainly on the entrance from Cinnamon Lane to Chinkwell Street, we need double yellow lines. We need to stop people parking there because people can't get down to the children's playing fields.
Yeah.
They can't. It's so dangerous to come out of there because they can't move a house, and the house is there, and the lorries just come down so fast. You have to scurry around the corner. So I think that is really dangerous and needs double yellow lines.
Yeah. So, Ian and then Rick.
I was just going to add flippantly to the issue of the very narrow pavements on coursing backs along there, that if you're walking with a dog, which is a hazardous creature at the best of times, and you have him by your side, you often run out of space. And so then you have to get in the road because he demands the pavement. or you meet a dog coming the other way, in which case you have to elevate him to make sure he doesn't engage it in an aggressive fashion. But actually, before I forget, on a more sensible note, that piece of crossing with all the cobblestones that are all so uneven, why do there have to be stones there? Why isn't it just continuous tarmac?
Well, we might come back to that issue, but I think that's possibly part of the antidote. Rick?
For Margaret, Cinnamon Lane, can't you just put a clearway sign up there? Instead of having to put yellow lines everywhere.
So put the road traffic order would be a clearway and going down through to pass, well, all the way maybe.
Yeah, all the way. And then it's only for residents really, or people going to the pub.
That would be one solution, as long as people stick to it.
I think the double yellow lines would be easier to enforce in some way because it's hard to ignore them.
Well, they're going to go down there. You know,
well,
talk to the traffic wardens a lot. We get one or two, don't we? Most. And they're sent wherever they go, you know. And then they don't do in the evenings, which is a nightmare for Benedict Street again. But, you know, it seems to be how it works, and they take their time getting anywhere. One of them has to drive if he wants to go up the Tor, the other one has to walk if he wants to go up the Tor, for instance. So I think relying on enforcement isn't a good idea. I don't think that's a good idea at all. But whereas the police won't do anything about parking, will they?
No.
No. But what about clearway, stopping on a clearway?
That would be a police matter. That's why we decided the clearway would be good around the Tor.
What would probably be the best idea for that then?
It's a good idea, Paul.
Back on that, I noticed on the Google map that there was some DPD drivers who have parked the courier vans, and that would prove very difficult, I would suggest, for residents to get deliveries if it was clearway along there.
Margaret's point about the junction at Torview Avenue and Hillhead. I've received a lot of complaints about that, and double yellow lines there are really important.
We can ask.
That's what I'd like to see. Double yellow lines, top of Cinnamon Lane.
Definitely.
And also the old chestnut about the wisdom of having the A361 as a national freight route. I mean, it's bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Absolutely right. As Margaret said, it's an accident waiting to happen. It's only the angel of Glastonbury that's prevented it.
If we get everything in, then we can just keep working away at it until whereas people
national freight route.
Yeah, that one will be.
It's been said before in this chamber that you'd have to be bloody stupid to make that into one, and even more stupid to leave it as one. But anyway, Margaret, have you finished?
Yeah, okay, thank you. So that leads very neatly into my review national freight route. Yes. And then I also had speed fine cameras. I was thinking about the high street as well, you know, so it was 20 miles an hour, and you have something that can clock the registration. So again, it comes down to are we allowed to or not. But it could be like Glastonbury is like 20 miles an hour, and we welcome motorists. Your speeding fines keep our precept down. Sorry about that. So a lot of my stuff is because I walk everywhere. I do bicycle as well. So in particular, 3 zebra crossings definitely need doing. The one round on Street Road, the cars just don't stop. The one by Magdalen Street Toilet again, and the one on Beer Lane.
What should be done with them?
Yeah.
They need painting, lighting, and just like make it very, very obvious, because the change of the highway code last year means pedestrians basically have the sort of the
right of way.
You know, but that one on Street Road, I try and cross there pretty much every day. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. Some people, like, they just don't see it.
It's got a Romulan cloaking device on it, I'm pretty certain of that.
Yeah. But they certainly need something. So all 3 of those have just got like the Policia beacon type things, just the orange thing. So they need to be sort of brought up into the 21st century, I reckon.
Councillor Napper has been requesting for a long time the one on Street Road, and I should think the others should have one of those halos over the top, which on the top of the police beacon.
Yeah, okay, so there. And so at night, you can hardly see those things. You know?
That hedge tends to be a little bit more.
So I sort of stand in the car park area just on the left there and like look at the traffic, and then when it feels safe, come to the crossing and then come across. But it's not very good at all. The Beer Lane one, similar. You've got like a little bit of traffic calming, a sort of chicane type thing just by that crossing. But again, so it's quite near to the Rural Life Museum. Yeah. But again, it's not very obvious. People don't see it. They're concentrating on other things like traffic flow. And so it's not very obvious. And then the Magdalen Street one just outside by the toilet, just outside Goddess House or Temple. So again, just on that end of Street Road, the mini roundabout has almost disappeared. You know, there's barely an arrow left. Like that thing, okay? So there is a mini roundabout. Now it isn't. And then on Benedict Street, so like if you cross the bypass, Park Farm Road, the mini roundabout at the end of that has disappeared, just near where the Sharpham Portrait Road is. And then the next one, if you went round to the right onto Dye House Lane, that mini roundabout is just about gone as well. Yes, so. And there might be others, but those are the ones I sort of pass pretty much every day. I then have graffiti on road signs. So just up here by Abbey Park, so off Fisher's Hill, the bottom part of that road sign has got graffiti across it. And that ties in with the signage for coach parking. So when you're coming down there, it will still say coach parking straight down Magdalen Street. And it isn't, you know, and then that one there, you see, like on the corner, town centre parking. So that really needs, when you go up to the B&Q roundabout, it says alternative car parking and it takes you round to the proper job one. You know, so we don't want coaches.
No, we don't.
Heading down there. So all of that, I've reported them before, but not a great deal has happened with it, you know, so it's still exactly the same. And just by Morrison's as well, so there. What else did I have? So coach parking. Oh yeah, the wonky roads and pavements. So when I walk, I sort of see like bits of infilling. So there's nothing really sort of consistent of like a nice road surface being done. And I know everybody's digging it up all the time and putting different broadband stuff and all the rest of it in there. I'm not sure if pavements sort of fit inside or if they sort of end out at district or somebody else. But the wonky sort of pavement, it must take them hours to sort the stones out to make it wonky. Okay. If you're there on, say, a mobility scooter, you try and get up, so you might have like the little low areas, but it's not enough for all four wheels. So you can put two wheels on, you know, and then, but it's like it's awful. You go up by the post office. Oh, that zebra crossing by the post office as well. That needs sort of adding in as well. The one by the Avalon Club. So that isn't very visible. But yeah, so the policy of deliberately laying wonky pavements could do with being reviewed. I thought maybe some humour would sort of move this story along.
Thank you. Lilith?
Thank you.
Oh, I just wanted to say that the thing about the 20-mile-an-hour limits is problematic for people who work and have to get from one place to another. Because I mean, if you're a domiciliary care worker, you get less money on travel time than you do when you're with your client. And it's, you know, you have to move quickly to get between, you're time bound. So putting it down to 20 miles an hour is actually reducing the wages of the most low paid workers. And it concerns me that, you know, we would do that.
Thank you. So Indra and then Steve and then Paul.
I think Steve was before me.
No, I think you put your hand up before.
Okay.
Steve.
It was just on the what was it? Yeah, are we doing pavements? Is pavements being covered today as well?
Oh, we might as well have it all in.
Oh, lovely. Just to say then about the lady in the wheelchair that's been trying to come in. I think for the last 4 months, actually 5 months, she's been trying to come in and to talk about how her journeys around town in a wheelchair are complete income. She hasn't actually made it in. No, the actual pavement, the irregular, mainly around the high street.
Yeah. So that's the top end.
She's challenged us to actually go in a wheelchair and try it for ourselves. Yes.
So that again is the wonky pavements. Steve?
Yeah, I was just going to say to Lilith, I mean, I think the difference between a 30 and a 20 is adding minutes to somebody's journey, really. For this, you know, we're trying to do this as a safety issue for the whole town and an environmental issue for the whole town. And really, if we are inconveniencing a few people by a minute on a 5-minute journey or whatever, it's not really, I don't think it's as important as the things we're trying to achieve, put it that way.
So Paul and then Rick?
Steve just said what I was going to say.
Okay, Rick.
Yeah, while we're on this 20, 30 mile an hour limit, I don't see anything at all about trying to slow down cyclists. And there are a lot of them that come herring down
Fisher's Hill.
High Street. Well, Fisher's Hill is another one, yeah.
Absolutely.
They come herring round corners, and particularly I was always knocked down by a guy who came down the high street, and I was by New Balabobic, or whatever it is, the shop there, where Cat and Cauldron was. I was crossing from that side of the road. I mean, it's, potentially it's not the place to cross really, but when you've got a cyclist, when you've looked left and you've looked right, and by the time you've looked left again, a cyclist has gone straight in front of you. Somebody's going to get knocked down pretty quick, and these are, it's a great sport and everything, but I think cyclists should also be very well aware of the dangers they're potentially offering to pedestrians, children, and should also follow the same rules that we have to follow, whether it's 20 or 30.
I would love to be able to go 20 miles an hour on my bike.
Well,
we're talking about cyclists that do, and there's an awful lot of them.
Okay. Well, the point well made. I got Lindsay and I think Mike. Were you going to reply to Rick?
I was just going to say, I think cyclists are, should have got to adhere to the same laws as everybody else. Surely, so if somebody's going faster than 20 miles an hour.
Oh yeah.
And you prove it, though.
Sticks in their spokes.
Yeah. Well, I used to cycle, 30, 35 miles an hour.
No, I agree with you. But
coming down a hill as a kid, you wouldn't do it now. There's too many cars around. But you can get up to 35 easy, 40.
Lindsay.
Right, so I'd like to see the sign at Farrington Gurney changed.
So shall we come back to this when it's your
Is it my turn?
Well, no, because I think we've got we just done Mike, so it'll be Michael and then you. Is that okay?
Yeah, I thought I was the last one.
Have you finished, Michael?
Yeah, I just had one comment about the gritter, and so those big gritting lorries, they do go across the pavements like down here, because I was standing there by the market on Tuesday when the gritter lorry came past, so that one did put across on the pavement, but maybe the remote places they don't, so they're probably in the middle of the road.
Thank you. So from one Michael to another.
This is a comment with regard to the signs that you made. I think all the parking ride signs are misleading because they suggest that there's either free parking or free bus, and there's neither. And I think they should be removed as part of a review of all the signage around Glastonbury. Because in parts there are too few, and in parts there's far too many signs, and not only that, they're completely irrelevant. And our previous clerk threatened to remove some of them, although probably just as well he didn't have time to do so. But if you can ask Highways Somerset to remove the irrelevant signage in Glastonbury, it will reduce the clutter, and also to review the signage.
Yep, that's a fair idea. Yeah.
Thank you, Lindsay. Oh, sorry, I thought you were. I do apologise. Michael, you finished.
Finished, thank you.
From one Michael to another.
Okay, all I've got to say, because I've said far too much already, is although it's not in my ward, there's the junction of Manor House Road coming up to Wells Road, where you turn right, coming up Manor House Road,
Yeah.
turn right, and there's a blind spot because there's cars parked on your right on Wells Road. There's about 3 car parking spaces that need to be double yellowed. I would suggest possibly up to 3, in order for vision 70 yards to the right to be achieved.
There you go, mate.
Drivers coming out of Manor House Road.
Yeah, it is. I
Again,
know.
it's an accident waiting to happen. I think I mentioned it before, Nick.
Yes, I was just raising my eyebrows because you'll see that the first parking space there is a designated space.
That was quite an out-of-date picture there. I've got a more up-to-date one, March 2021.
It's gone, has it? Oh, right.
It seems like the...
Yeah, they must have done.
They've changed
Been removed.
now.
No, so that's...
Which is the old one.
This is 2008.
Yeah.
And there's designated parking spaces there.
That's a disabled parking space, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was Mike Crossman's.
Oh, it's gone though, yeah. I thought it was still there. I didn't realise.
No, there's designated parking spaces there now. Residents parking spaces.
Yeah, residents.
On that road, yeah.
What's the last one? What's that one?
That's the most recent. So would you like to see an extension of those double yellows?
Yeah, I think every driver would.
Lucky on that one.
But I mean, we can put these forward, and it'll be up to the highways to.
The officer will go through them with a fine-tooth comb, and
If you were to go up there in your van, you'll see what I mean.
yeah, I know what you mean.
Blind spot. You have to pull out into the middle of Wells Road before you get vision out of the way.
Yeah. Rick, you wish to comment on this?
Yeah, because there's another one, isn't there, further this way? I can't remember the name of it. Was it Underwood?
Yeah.
Further down this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. By the bus stop.
Manor House Road is a rat run, so it's used a lot.
Yeah. But there is another one. I put it up when we...
Do you mean this one here coming out of that Thornton? Yeah.
Mm.
Well, it was that one that I was at that Underwood when I was there the other day, just near the cemetery.
Yeah, that's it.
Suddenly there's a 30-mile sign.
Brilliant when they're parked there on the right-hand side and you're coming up.
Yeah.
It's just not workable.
What's happened, of course, because they've put the trial of the residence permits at the bottom of Well House, everybody used to park there is parking further along towards the school and beyond.
I mean, whether that...
Not Well House, Wells Road. Sorry, Freudian slip.
Improved with a mirror on the other side of the road. Concave mirror, I mean, you know, they do work.
Yes. Have you finished, Mike?
Convex.
Lindsay, at last we reach you.
I don't know about the Farrington Gurney thing. Perhaps I won't go over that one. North Load Street for cyclists needs resurfacing.
What is
And the same with Torview
North Load
Avenue. It's hazardous for cyclists.
Because it's uneven.
Yeah, they're kind of places where they've done the drains, and it's kind of that much, you know. I have to, like in Magdalen Street, I have to avoid it.
Right.
So there's drainage problems at the top of Silver Street. Always. I don't know whether anything can be done about that. And the top of Cottle Close, there's a dropped curb that has never been put in. since the building work was done. And Liz Lysham told me that it was the developer's responsibility, but it hasn't happened. So.
Developers are a bit crap there. Which one? Which side was it?
Coming out of Cottle Close, as you
Yeah.
turn left, you go over a pavement. Yeah. And so people were sometime.
Yeah.
So people will go into the middle of the road, and then the other person can't come in.
That might be worth looking at.
Yeah, that's definitely worth pushing.
I wonder if something can be done about Manor House Road, because it's always jamming up. People kind of stopping at Nobbins Road and sort of, you know. And then this is a little request that's been given to me, Wellhouse Lane. The White Spring people would like a parking space. No. Worth asking.
No, that's not even worth putting on the list.
But Wellhouse Cottage has got a parking space.
Yeah, further up, yeah. Alistair's got a parking spot.
Yeah, that's what we meant.
But you're not going to get what you wanted down the bottom end, I can tell you.
Well, I can ask.
Yeah, you can ask.
Yeah, and the Farrington Gurney one is kind of a long running saga. Why all the traffic gets signposted via Glastonbury rather than Wells. And it just occurred to me, I haven't looked at the signage, but if they said Wells is unsuitable for HGVs, then at least you might get car traffic going that way, so you'd ease it a little bit.
Yeah, Paul. I get what you're saying then, because you've got the runoff for the HGVs down into Wells.
Yeah, there is
their reason for not having them. But you know, if you didn't put Glastonbury on the signs, you just put unsuitable for HGVs and Shepton Wells, they can choose. I don't know.
That's come up many times before. It might be worth revisiting signage, Paul.
So isn't Farrington Gurney in Baines? It's not in Somerset.
No, it's in Somerset. Where the sign is just the border is as you go up the hill out of Farrington Gurney, and just where the junction we're talking about is just in Somerset. But the signage, it's not as if, I don't know, the person who was in charge of all this sort of stuff lived in Wells or anything. The signage pushes all of the traffic through Shepton Mallet. So you come up, go straight on to go to Wells, or you turn left to go to Shepton Mallet, and for some reason they put Glastonbury on that one.
They have, it's there behind you.
Everyone goes to Glastonbury that way.
Well, all the vehicles that are instructed that way, which increases then the road traffic coming down through Coursing Batch, and So, but far be it from us to comment on the people who used to live in Wales and run the county. I don't know anything about that.
But that would work, would it not?
They've now gone away.
Just remove Glastonbury.
We would have to get the HGVs, but perhaps not all the rest. We reduce the rest.
I'll let it settle into unitary first, right? And then I'll revisit. I'll revisit that one. I think I might be able to get something out of that.
We do have a cordless screwdriver we can lend.
A pot of green paint.
And then somebody's got
let them get the past vesting day on the 1st of April, and then we'll see what we can push.
Okay. Indra.
To be honest, there's a lot of work going into that. It's crazy. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to keep on the same vein then. I've got a couple from residents and a couple personal, but yeah, the National Freight Route. So the lovely people that live on Chalkwell Street, this new couple just moved into Bolt Hole. There's a lovely couple that have lived in the Toll House, now the Blue House at the bottom, who have been tearing their hair out. So there's a little indent to say that only one lorry can pass at one time. I think they were repainted when the resurfing was done, and they're already, it's already faded and it's not working. It's not. Is there anything else that can be done? They're constantly getting their house, they're guttering. Oh, sorry. So right at the bottom, so opposite Wellhouse Lane, you've got that toll house, which is blue. They painted it blue. It kind of sticks out.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. I used to live there too. Yeah, totally. And when lorries were passing each other, the entire, because there's no windows at the back, everything blacks out. Because, so for actual people living there, and also Chilkwell Street, we did surveys up and down there, and the amount of the steps that were moving away from the houses and the cracks that were happening and the vibrations, those are grade 2 buildings.
There is a problem here, mind.
Tell me.
There's a big one. Yourself, no, I don't know whether it was you, but there was a complaint about no, what do you call it, around the road? Relief road. You said no relief road. Yeah. That's the only way to solve it.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. No. We've just been talking about it for the last 5 minutes.
You send those lorries. You send those lorries. They come from the quarry a little bit further down the road. We should not be subsidising with the lives of the people of Glastonbury, the businesses of private businesses of people who run quarries, and that's what's happening. The only reason that freight route's going through is to supplement the quarries to make a profit. Why are the residents of Glastonbury doing that at the expense of their livelihoods and their peace in their living?
How many extra miles?
Who cares? Why is that our concern?
Yeah. No. I'm thinking. I'm playing devil's advocate, really.
Why?
And
so what? No.
Yeah, they do.
You just say so what to the private businesses. They that's the only reason that was put in. And we should just remove it. You just take the sign down, you take it off the national freight route, you make it restricted to 7.5 apart from deliveries, and you've done it. And they just go down, along, and they meet the motorway. Brilliant.
Yeah, it can be done. Yeah. There is a way to do it. Yeah.
We should not be subsidising businesses with the livelihoods and happiness of our residents.
And the health.
Yeah,
the
all of it.
Pollution that goes up.
And it's a national destination for tourism, and we turn it into a death trap.
And it is the main route to the tour, which is the town's biggest attraction, maybe next to the Abbey. But that's the pilgrim walk they do, and that pavement is this wide. Talk about a dog on that one.
I think we all know that, really. Yeah.
So you don't need. Building a new bypass is the most brilliant piece of fallacy argument I've ever heard anybody.
That's a different argument I have at a different time.
But that's a straw man.
I would like to, I know there's hands up, but just kind of bring it back to also the 20-mile-an-hour limit. Now, I remember when Liz Lation was battling away, many years ago, when we were trying to sort this out, and the 20-mile-an-hour limit was brought in to kind of put the lorries off. Yes. It's like we couldn't designate it as national freight, but it was kind of like, well, on their sat nav it might look a little bit longer, so they might go another way. So I think bringing in those, maybe bringing in the bylaw, certainly bringing in a camera, but really putting in, because I live on the crossroads, so bottom of Beer, top of Fishers. And they do not, people, especially early in the morning, they gun it down. And I think by putting that in, then it might just deter them and to go another way.
Hi.
I'd just like to point out the ridiculousness of having that pinch point where only one lorry could go by at a time on a national freight route. That's diabolical. Where else in the country is that situation?
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
Steve and then
Thanks. Is the A361 committee still in operation?
No, but we can revise it.
Well, the only point I was going to make was obviously when the A361 was banging on at county about this freight route, it was a different administration.
Yeah, exactly.
Would it be worth sort of
resurrecting?
Well, I mean, we were at a planning meeting last night, Lindsay, weren't we? The A361 in Wharton was, being complained about. They've got exactly the same problem.
Yeah, they do. Oh, gosh, yeah.
They would still have that problem, wouldn't they? But anyway, Yeah, maybe it would be worth tackling the Lib Dems at county with a new.
Might not be a bad
you know,
idea.
get
Once
it
you've got it
redesignated.
resurrected, and after the unitary, though, I would suggest.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's only a month away. Lilith.
I really wanted to ask Indra, because of where you live, that that Bear Lane Fisher Hill junction, would it be better to have a mini roundabout there?
Yes, absolutely. That was my next point. Yeah.
It's mental when you're following a sat nav, it tells you to go straight across.
Yeah.
And I've done that many times and came very close to death.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, absolutely. That is.
It is a bad junction.
Sorry, we haven't finished listening to yours.
Yeah, no, that was fine though. Was there any more on? I was like, what? Yeah, I did. I've been sorry. But thank you. Yes, if I may then. Yes, there are many near misses. The pavement is constantly being done. I'd say you'd know this, every 2 or 3 months, they're having to redo that little round of pavement because of usually big lorries crushing it, and the drains. But yes, it's, because even if you're giving way to the right, that's kind of fine because there's the least traffic as it comes down Hillhead. So yeah, here. So as cars go there, and there's a constant waiting here, which means cars coming up the road having to rev up further.
Yeah, it is a kind of like it's like Mexican standoff, isn't it?
Yeah. I've seen better. Yeah, exactly. I've seen better roundabouts in Rome.
It's the only 4-way junction that feels like a 5-way, isn't it? It's really weird.
Yeah, and on a bike, I mean, it's almost funny if it wasn't dangerous. I have actually knocked off my bike there because
it's big enough for a roundabout.
Yeah, even like a little mini one, nobody really knows quite what to do.
It's a really good idea, though. Excellent.
So you see where it's blurred.
Plenty
my partner
of
did
space
that. It's quite funny. I live behind the blur.
Anything else?
Yes. Sorry. Thank you. Roundabout in Bear Lane, bottom of Bretonneau. I just want to complain about that monstrosity that's pretending to be a cycle path. I'll leave it there.
Leave it there.
How much did anyway? Okay. Yeah. So I've been talking to coach drivers who park. It's probably not for here, but just parking it here, as it were. So coaches that park at proper job are charged parking, and apparently during the Christmas period, in places like Wells and Street, they don't get charged, and they were complaining that they
should have been free.
No, it should be free. It would be the same.
Yeah.
The 18th of December it was free.
Yeah. It would be the same.
They were just complaining. Okay, fine, thank you. I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Apart from just Magdalen Street.
Yeah,
the biggest insult, mostly, whether you're a cyclist, a walker, or a driver, it's awful.
And this whole building change.
Yeah.
Well, gosh knows what it's doing to the drains.
Michael?
Yeah, mine just sort of builds on Indra's extra mini roundabout. Trying to get across that road, across Fisher's Hill, is an absolute nightmare. And like you say, you're looking down the hill, down there, here, there, to try and get across the road. And then, of course, you're looking uphill to see what's coming out of old...
Roman Way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's literally who has the most guts goes first.
Did you want to say something, Margaret?
Oh, the only thing that I sort of was thinking about was actually going back to the 20-mile-an-hour limit, which is really difficult to keep to when you've got a lorry smack at the back of you, and you're trying to keep to the limit, and he's trying to get into the car with you. You know, that is really difficult. And I know they've got a lot of sort of gears to have to go down. It's difficult to drive a lorry. But I just think getting rid of this freight road would solve so many problems. And if you go back to that sign that we saw that said Glastonbury, why not just put, where it's got Glastonbury, just put unsuitable for HGV? Don't have to change it at all. Put it on.
I've got spray paint.
Just help pencil. Just deter at least one or two.
Yeah.
Lorries nowadays are so big and they're so heavy that they're wrecking their own service the minute it's virtually months after it's been put down.
Yeah, right.
So, yes, it'll be Michael and then Rick.
Thank you. Just a very quick one. The other end of Street Road, the sort of B&Q
Yes.
roundabout end, is very hard to get across the road.
If you're walking.
If you're walking.
Definitely.
So you, just near the Air Cadets,
Yeah.
the pavement disappears on that side,
Yeah.
and then you're trying to get across Street Road.
Yeah.
When you get there, you can't actually, like, if you're on the sort of the garage side, you can't see. Yeah. So the pavement stops there.
That's right.
You can go down to the housing estate, down to there, and then. But if you carry straight on, you see suddenly there's no footpath at all.
That's right. There should. I've always wondered why there's no pedestrian crossing there.
Yeah. So something like that, or maybe a mirror, so you could see. So it's like if you're coming out of the bypass end, 39 end. So it's like if you go just a bit further along, Connor, you can that way. Yeah. When you get to where the roundabout is, you can't actually see round that corner.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've got the signs there. The roundabout would be there. The road on the left would take you to street. B&Q straight across. So if you're coming across from, there's a bus stop just over there as well, just there. Yeah. And then if you're coming from this side, this first corner, you can't see to be able to cross Street Road to get across to that side safely.
You can't see what's coming round. No.
So one of those sort of curved mirrors might work, so at least you get a bit of something, but some sort of a crossing.
Mm.
Somebody has already asked for one, but not on that road. On the other road coming up by where Kentucky Fried.
Yeah.
I was going to put.
I was going to.
Just down from there. From the estate.
Well, and there is a crossing at Fair. Yeah. They're called Brewers Fair, isn't it? So yeah, you'd have to sort of.
Yeah, that one's okay. But then, like, if you come out of that and you sort of walk across, you then haven't got a crossing on that side. You have on the Premier inside, but you haven't on the Avalon Plastic side.
So I think, was it Rick and then Lilith?
I was just going to say about this one on the A39, that people going over to, like, the travel lodge and that. That's horrible there.
Yes.
Well, if you think about it, that's our main hotel, isn't it? Yeah. And it's awful to get to. Rick, did you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was going to ask Nick, might be a valid question, about statistics for accidents on these hotspots, like Fisher's Hill, et cetera, which there must be. Somebody will be somewhere. So if you can get hold of that, I'm sure you can, because I'm sure we can't. But as far as I know, up in London, that's what they do for a pastime. So that there are accidents recorded. Like, say, we're all sat here saying, oh, yeah, it's terrible Fisher's Hill. I find it quite fun, to be honest, getting across there. And I'm just wondering if they're all concentrating on health and safety and risk assessments too much, and not giving, which is the obvious thing, is that a driver of a car has passed a test, has experience and insurance. Now, if they bang their car, well, what the hell? I think we're just concerned too much for safety when there is probably no real problem. It looks like there's a problem, but I don't think there is. I've never seen anything there.
Well, that's a very good point.
I've seen one at the top of the high street. It was actually a friend of mine coming home at 3 o'clock in the morning who turned over up the top of the high street. I mean, you can't legislate for everybody.
No, it's true. I'm conscious Connor wanted to come in.
No, sorry, I've had several residents raise the Beer Lane Fisher's Hill junction to me, and when I mentioned it to the traffic engineer when she introduced herself to me, she told me that they don't have any record of any incidents happening there, but they do get alerted of accidents or incidents that cause injury, and I just found it absolutely amazing because when I cross over at that junction to go and visit the work on Fisher's Hill Recreation Ground, it's an absolute nightmare to try and cross there. I'm amazed there's nothing up there. And actually, it was funny what you said,
Only if it's
Worship. It's the only four-way junction that feels like a five-way junction. I don't quite know where I should be looking.
That's not all day though, is it? I mean, it's like like you're saying, it's all day. I mean, it's in the morning, or probably it's in the afternoon. Rush hour, usual times where you get accidents every country. So, but the rest of the day, it's not that bad. It really isn't. I drive a lot.
Chair, please. It's getting a bit.
So that's okay. So I think I've got Steve, Indra, and Ian.
All right. So as I think Nick just said, the police give the county council the accident records.
Right.
If there's nothing reported to the police, then the county council don't know anything about it. With regard to cycle lanes, Serena, which I got, some great ideas, and I think we should encourage more cycling in the town. But we are, because of our lack of parking, most of the people in town do park outside their house or near their house, which kind of would make a cycling lane difficult. So what I was going to say, is there any, obviously the Sustrans and people like that, could we get a survey done or something like that? Or has something been done as to how we would negotiate the problems of parked cars and still enable sort of cycle lanes to be put in? Because if we can get them in, then I'm all for it, but I'm just thinking it would be quite difficult.
The survey was done with the consultation of Mendip District Council. And he didn't come up with anything particularly definitive, but he came up with lots of recommendations. And some of these recommendations include what I've just said. And some of them included more pedestrian crossings as well.
Right.
As you say, the problem with the car parking, let's say Wells Road, there's places where a cycle lane would be quite easy because there's not the car parking there, and then other places where it would be really tricky because there are cars parked there. And it's very itsy bitsy Wells Road. Sometimes you have cars and sometimes you have a clear. Now, what they do in Bristol is where it's not possible to have the cycle lane on the road, they put it on the pavement.
All right.
And then it's people and bicycles who are having to negotiate rather than cars and bicycles.
Yeah, we've been putting that stuff in. Mendip have been
and that is something that maybe could be looked at.
Okay, that's good.
But I do refer you to that LC work that Mendip did because there were lots of recommendations from the people who did it.
So
they also mentioned Shortwell Street as being a disaster. And again, if the pavement was officially put as a cycle as well as people, that would certainly be safer for the cyclists. But then I know when I go along it, I'm always very slow and I'm very careful, and I make sure that when there's people walking that I either alert them or I stop and whatever. And there are some people who are not going to be so careful. So again, it's a tricky one, but that is what they do in Bristol.
Yeah, that comment. Paul was going to make a comment about that.
So yes, okay. Well, I'm conscious that Indra, I think Indra wanted to speak, and then Ian wanted to speak, but I'm not sure if they're legacy.
Yes, sorry.
So I've got you down, Paul, but after these two, if that's all right.
It was to talk about the roundabout, but also yes, I was there when when that was proposed as well. I used to work for Sustrans, and they are Brassica. We do have amazing Sustrans routes around, but they actually rely on quite local volunteers to do the research for them, which is what was kind of done there. And there is actually a local group, the local climate and ecological emergency group, have a cycling part of it, and they went round, especially during lockdown, clearing all the bushes and stuff. So they may even be people you can ask about that as well. But I did actually want to come back to the roundabout. Oh yeah.
Well, before you change subject, I think, Lindsay, do you want to respond to what the subject we were talking about?
Yeah, the LC whip. It was done with a computer program by somebody professional, so it wasn't volunteers who did the survey.
Right.
Not that one.
But that meant that it didn't really properly relate to on the ground real life issues like parking. And one thing that stood out, I seem to remember, was the connectivity across the bypass. So yes, a few more pedestrian crossings really good ones with traffic lights and everything, was actually one of the standout recommendations, apart from lots of cycling things to facilitate cycling.
Thank you, Indra. By your grace, I don't know if Paul, were you wanting to speak to that subject as well?
Yes, I was. I was just going to add that Serena mentioned Bristol. If you go in on the A37 into Bristol, on the road between Whitchurch and Knoll, they've got a cycle lane there.
Yes.
And that's actually outside the parked cars. You've got the pavement, you've got the parked cars, then you've got the cycle lane, and then you've got the road. So somewhere like Benedict Street, for example, where you've got cars, you could have the cycle lane outside the parked cars.
Thank you. Ian, was yours related to the cycle routes?
I had a good observation on cycling, but it's a bit kind of tangential. But I wanted to say something about crossings on the street road.
So if we hold that thought, we'll come back to Indra. You were going to change the subject, and then we'll come to you. Is that okay?
Thank you. It was just going back to the one Fisher's Hill, but all others. A lot of accidents aren't reported. I just hear lots of beeping, shouting, bumping, and bits of cars in the morning. So yeah, a lot of things aren't, and people-wise as well. You kind of have to take it into your own hands. And the thing coming back about the roundabout, what Connor said about, was it you said about being asked, or was it you? Sorry, asked about they didn't see the need for it.
I'm okay, but I would have the only thing I was just thinking about it then. We might be able to kill two stones, or we might not get one. Is the Arctic lorries coming down Bear Lane?
Yes.
Going around and avoiding driving straight over the mini roundabout, which people do anyway. I don't think that would probably work because of that.
We're going to get the lorries diverted anyway.
But that's what we'd like to do, isn't it? Yeah.
That hill.
Where?
Okay.
But yeah, that's the thing. So you've got to put the 4-speed, yeah.
It's more them coming straight up and over. Cars will stop literally in the middle.
Yeah.
You've got these
Yeah.
and so you just end up with this very funny, almost gridlock with lots of beeping.
So it would be right, definitely. I think so. It's just whether there's some highways rubbish that would, I shouldn't say rubbish.
Do you mean legislation?
Legislation. And it being able to be done. So that's.
Well, it's just, sorry, I'm just conscious that Ian wanted to talk, and we've left him. But did you want to reply to what? Yeah, I'm so sorry. Okay.
I was just going to mention. Is that okay? Speak. The mini roundabout at the top of Chilwell Street, Beer Lane, lorries go over it constantly. So,
Yeah, they get around there, don't they? Okay.
No, they don't.
They go over it.
Yeah.
All the time.
But that's why minis are like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ian.
I was going back to the crossings again, several crossings, and the street road Michael was talking about, being a dog walker, it would be very handy if such a crossing were located in line with the gates that goes through onto the base of Weariall Hill. A lot of people come down from there with a dog, or sometimes more, to a couple of dogs.
Oh, yes.
And they find themselves on a very narrow bit of pavement, and if somebody's coming along, you can't go anywhere. So that there, right there, I think that would be a good place to have.
Good shout.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that would absolutely help people trying to get across into Morrison's.
Yeah.
So although there's a zebra crossing further down, it doesn't help.
And it could deal with what the bit that you were talking about, where the pavement ends just a bit further up the road here anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, just this way a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I do. A couple of observations to make. One thing that I suddenly occurred to me with regard to cameras, if you have speed cameras, I found myself getting a ticket for one once. I don't speed very often, but I did get one. I thought it was a bit unfair. And so I challenged it, and I discovered that if the local authority where the camera's located is part of the camera partnership, which many are, then they should not erect a camera unless there have been a certain number of accidents within so many yards of the location of the camera. It's just worth knowing. You know, the idea that you've got to wait till somebody dies before you get a camera is kind of the actual protocol which can determine camera placement. I was quite surprised to learn it, but it's a fact, apparently. The other observation I wanted to make was about cyclists, because I'm a cyclist too. And the sort of people, well, all the people in this room will be in the safe bracket. As soon as people start dressing in special clothes, they become lunatics.
Yes.
I mean, what?
So, men in lycra. Yeah.
Lovely. Manners. Oh, yes, yes.
That's what they call them in New Zealand.
If you wanted to have safer cycling, you ban lycra and you ban special shoes and you ban pressure. We've got a story the other day about several American states that withdrew their requirement for people to wear crash helmets on bicycles, and they've experienced no loss of, say, no more cycle fatalities. But people, it's a very strong psychological factor. Same with motorcyclists. So when you feel a bit safer and you think, I've got all this orange kit on, I've got this helmet on, I'll be all right, whatever happens. Complete nonsense, you know, because they see people on racetracks who survive extraordinary speeds, but they don't hit anything. Often they slide. Racetracks are created like that. And the reason why the Isle of Man is so dangerous is because it's not a racetrack, it's a road. So you hit lampposts and walls. And none of this is rocket science. But it's worth keeping in mind when looking at the general question of road safety and cycle
quite right.
Education.
It'll be coming very handy when we try to get the TT over here as well.
Yeah.
So, Indra, do you have any more points to make?
No, thank you. Yep.
So the only one that I was going to, well, two I want to mention. One is on Rowley Road.
Yeah.
So
definite.
If you drive up Rowley Road from above town, all of the houses that are on your left are downhill, and they've got to drive up out of driveways onto the road, and they have no restriction of parking along that side of the road. So they've got to drive up, and then they've got cars where they can't see, and it is really dangerous for them. Mm-hmm. And I've had a number of complaints about why can't we have something done about this. And I've been along there and had a look, and indeed, you know, there is absolutely no restriction. So it's this side here. You know, clearly no cars on there now, but cars in the evening do park up. You can see just how narrow that is. No restriction there. And then if you're trying to come out of one of the houses up here, which has got maybe a car parking or whatever, it is quite dangerous. So I'm not necessarily from this cul-de-sac, but further up. And I wondered whether there could be yellow line from the bottom there, which I believe is 48 or something like that, from above town right up to about 22, which I think is when it goes off to the right there, and it's kind of bit of Rowley Road odd, and then it goes up into 3. So if that carried on, because then there's a big bit of green on that side where nobody lives, or there's no entrances. But I think that would make life easier for anyone who's got a car that has to come out of a driveway there. And also, it's too narrow really for parking on both sides.
Yeah, because they park on the other side, and there's always somebody parks their camper van there most of the time. It's not there on your fixed line.
So you see, from 50 to 22, if it ran along that, if those yellow lines all along there up to that junction, I think that would solve a lot of problems for people who live on that road.
Yeah.
And
I'm just working it through. Right back to 22, you reckon?
Aye, where the junction is.
Yeah, junction up to Freehill, yeah. Yeah, there's no cars. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it's all right when there are no cars there, but at night time, that's when people double park, or park on both sides of the road, should I say. Similar to what happens on Wells Road. Normally on Wells Road, everybody parks on one side. Now you get parking on both sides, and it becomes a bit of a hazard.
They started doing that in Megan Mutton Road.
So I just think that that's worth highlighting, and if you could see what they thought about that, would be good.
Yeah.
The other one is Old Wells Road,
Oh, yeah.
If you go down Old Wells Road, it's not that you're in danger of hitting a pothole, it's you're in danger of hitting some part of the road that might be left.
20-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Well, it just, the road surface, that needs completely resurfacing.
Yeah.
It's incredibly bad.
Well, yeah, but that's what it is, because you've got the, they spent all the money putting in a new drainage system opposite Rob's garage,
Right.
and then they didn't bother to clean them out. Well, what the hell was the point in that? You know, no maintenance whatsoever. And, but hopefully we're going to get all of our drains done at some stage.
Well, thank you. So, yeah, just the pothole situation on Old Wells Road is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is bad.
Oh, and the other thing is that
they want your double yellow lines there as well down the bottom.
Well,
but I know what to put that.
The only other bit I just thought again now is as you're coming down. This is the classic one coming down towards Gypsy Lane from the top of the Tor. That the water across there is it's absolute, and it's actually coming out of the drains as well. So that all needs because. Especially this time of year now, if somebody starts driving up there, they're just going to hit black ice. It's just going to be, you know.
But I think there is a suspicion that was something to do with the reservoir.
Yeah, might be a main leak on the reservoir.
They so-called done a load of work on it, didn't they, 2 or 3 years ago? I don't know whether Connor's got any, probably hasn't got any recollection of that.
But if there is flowing water, regardless of where it's coming from, the skill of the traffic engineer should be able to
sort that out.
Sort it out, maybe put it to the side of the road.
There's another area there as well, but that one particularly there is really, really bad, because it comes straight down through there, then down around, then down the other.
Well, and then it washes out down at the bottom by the triangle bit.
Yeah, that's it, exactly, yeah.
Where we've had lots of problems with the road there, so that's still, you know it anyway.
I know it, yeah, I know that one inside out.
So, we've gone round. I don't know if anybody wants to pick up on anything or have any reflections on anything else that's been mentioned as we've gone round. Steve?
Well, the only thing I was going to say was we touched on residents parking, and as I said, I think a bunch of residents have got to get together. Everybody's got to agree to it. You've got to apply as a body, and then I don't know how much it costs, but I know that the neighbours of mine on Wells Road have done it, which brings me to my next point, Mike. The fact that I agree, double yellow lines at the top of Manor Road going round to the right, but obviously that has just been designated as part of the residents' parking of that bit of Wells Road. So they're probably going to stay where they are on that photo and end pretty much where they do. You know, where they do, just maybe, I don't know, what was it, 10 metres along the road. So I don't think they're going to, or whoever's paid for that residents' parking there is not going to want to have double yellow lines put on their pitch, unfortunately.
No.
Serena.
I really do. Please excuse me, but I really do need to go now.
Okay. Thank you, Serena, for your input. So, Connor, you've got a fairly substantial list. Have you got any reflections on that yourself?
Not necessarily specific reflections, Your Worship. As you say, it is a list now running for 3 pages long.
Mine's 3 pages.
Yeah.
We can get, eh?
Love me again. I think just from I almost impressed myself. I know where that is. I could find that on the map. So I knew the places that you'd all kind of raised. The only one I knew there was a Cottle Close because I once saw it and I thought, I wonder if Councillor Cottle had anything to do with that was named.
Because he's an esteemed councillor.
I wouldn't name that after me. It was named after a member of my family.
Just from my experience, mainly of having obviously working here in the town centre, a lot of people do raise the sets that used to be raised up for traffic calming. I was told they were flattened for the Tour of Britain and they weren't flattened properly and now they're collapsing. So I've nearly been splashed with standing water in them, and my car does have low profile tyres, and I have to there are some of them I can squeeze over, I go right over there, some of them right over there, some of them I just have to go incredibly slowly, otherwise it feels like the car's gonna give way. But I've made a note of all of those. I didn't know that the sign at Farrington Gurney caused so many problems. I've driven past it probably hundreds of times, and quite right. if I'm going that way, I wouldn't turn left to go to Glastonbury. You go straight on through Wells. It's crazy. So as I say, I've made a note of all of those. Councillor Cottle, you've asked me to type them up and send them to you. I'll circulate them to everyone as well. I don't think I've missed anything, and I've obviously got the benefit of the recording of this evening if there's anything that I'm a bit light on in terms of my notes. But I'll send that all round, and I would hope that we can get some progress on some of these areas. I don't know whether, Your Worship, you want to briefly, not to extend the meeting too long, but work out what from this 2.5, 3-page list
what are
really
your priorities?
are the priorities. So if the Highways Department come back to me and say, great, thanks for your list, what do you really want doing? Then it's I haven't got to scrabble around and think.
Okay.
I have made a note. So for example, the Magdalen Street sets, when that was first brought up by Councillor Osborne, I noted there were quite a few sort of murmurs of support. So I've put a few green ticks by that one.
What I think we'll do, if it's not too onerous, if you'd like to read off your list, if people feel that this is one of the top 3 most important things that we should get done, raise your hand, and we can just do a straw poll that way. And it doesn't matter. All I would caution you is just don't put your hand up for everyone. But if you feel that that's what it is, please do. So and then we can just count them off and we'll...
Yep. So I've got the entrance and exit to Paradise Estate.
Well, obviously, I think that's important. I mentioned it.
We only got 2 left now.
No, you can put your hand up as many times as you like.
Yeah, only 3 times.
What's the next one?
I have...
So that's 2 votes for that. So.
Yeah, okay. 2 ticks. I have got the Garbins Road opposite Bellevue Gardens. So the fact that there's the parking there.
It's got a 1.
I have the Magdalen Street sets.
I think that's a popular one there.
1, 2,
You put your hand up more than once.
Yes, you can.
7, 8, 9. I've got it. I think unanimous. And there. I've got residence parking in St John's car park.
Yeah, I'll go with that one. Oh, that's 2.
A 3.
3. I've got Oriel Drive, which is the entrance to Tor Leisure and Morrison's.
Just on the corner.
Yeah, just on that corner. If you're turning left from Street Road as if you're heading toward Glastonbury.
3 there.
3, yep.
Those your lines.
I've got residence parking in Benedict Street.
2.
I forgot what the suggestion was.
I've got the road design of Benedict Street to Garvin's Road, the entrance to Garvin's Road, no clear right of way. So that's where the giveaway was swapped from.
Yeah, I think that's a 1.
1. That's all part of the same. I've got the LC Whip request for cycle paths on Archard Way, Northlode Street, Wells Road, Benedict Street from the King Arthur, and on Chilkwell Street.
It's a 1. That's a 2, I'm afraid. 2.
I have noted speed camera on Beer Lane. That's not something a town council can do, but it's something you can request of the Highways Authority.
Do you mind if you could give us a bit of a briefing at some point on how speed cameras are acquired in localities, so we can get some gen on that? Thank you, Connor.
I've got 20 mile per hour for Windmill Hill Estate.
Oh yeah, no, I've got one left. I want to keep.
No, you can put it.
Sorry, that was me.
I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
7. I've got 20 mile per hour in general for Glastonbury.
20 miles
an hour throughout Glastonbury.
Oh, the whole town?
Yeah.
I would not be happy with it in the whole of the.
Don't put your hand up then.
There are places where it should
So I think that's 5, was it?
5.
Okay.
At least 8.
I've got the yellow lines on the corner of Torview Avenue. the island.
Was that the one you just asked, though?
No.
I just said 20 mile per hour for the whole of Glastonbury. The yellow lines for the corner of Tor.
No, I thought you just said that one before.
That's the first time I've raised that one. That's this area here where there's the...
Oh, yes, I think that's worthy.
How many was that? Sorry, it was probably 4 or 5, wasn't it, that one? I have Cinnamon Lane to Chilkwell Street, that junction. Yellow lines. 1, 2, 3.
Yes. I think that there's
5, 6.
that.
The Magdalen Street sets again, but that's fine. You've already voted on that one.
You know that's unanimous.
I've got, I imagine this one will be a popular one. A361, National Freight Route. Have it reviewed.
For what? To remove the National Freight Route designation. It was actually designated by the County Council, so the County Council has the ability to undesignate it.
That one was unanimous as well. Where am I? Unanimous. I've got high street speeding and wonky pavements.
Yeah, that's right.
2 pedestrians, 3, and a bicycle, and a 4.
I've got a collection of pedestrian crossings, Street Road, Magdalen Street toilets and Beer Lane, painting and lighting.
Well, they do need improving, that's for sure. I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Oh, wow.
It's almost unanimous. I think there was 10.
View National Freight Route again.
Sorry.
The signage on the Magdalen Street A361 mini roundabout. That's...
So there was the coach stuff that was sending...
Coach parking and graffiti and...
Yeah.
You say signage in general?
I think we need
You could say all.
Right, maybe we could ask for a rationalisation of the signage in Glastonbury and the removal of anything that's obsolete.
Yeah.
It's still on
Park and ride.
It was never a park and ride though. It was always
No, but the sign is still there.
Nobody thinks it.
so misleading, that sign.
You're there.
It's like the prison.
So, sorry, how popular was a review and rationalisation?
I think that's pretty unanimous actually.
Sorry?
Special note on the park and ride to be removed.
Yeah. I've got the sign at Farrington Gurney.
Oh yeah, that's got to go.
Definitely.
Unanimous as well, that's a popular one.
Let
That's
Wells
a nice
take-
easy one for them. All they need is either some green vinyl or a new panel
We can
sign.
supply the paint and the screwdriver.
And put unsuitable for HGVs, because you can't,
Lindsay, I think that would be optional. You know, drivers that normally come through Glastonbury, they wouldn't take any notice of.
but I wouldn't have,
Just say, oh, I always go that way, and they will just do it.
I wouldn't have thought county would agree to do it if you didn't also say this route's unsuitable for HGVs.
Okay.
That's always been the chestnut they roll out, isn't it? Oh, those lorries going downhill. You know. They've only just realised there was not a horse behind them, you know.
Has the escape lane ever been used?
I saw a car in there the other day, actually.
So there has been a runaway lorry
Right.
down Bristol Hill, and the walls, that there's a steep drop on some quite dangerous roads, and I've frequently seen them needing repairing.
Yeah.
So does look a bit perilous.
No,
really.
I think that it's quite right, Councillor, to say that it's unsuitable for HGVs.
Particularly the huge ones we have now. Yeah.
Lindsay, well, say
That one.
passed her driving test in July,
Outside of,
going up to Bath and back.
not that she's got any.
No message.
Sure, just a minute,
I'm
Councillors.
interested. Yes.
Have almost a page to go.
So, okay, Councillors, we'll talk more about these details, but Connor's still going through the list.
Junction at Manor House Road, extend double yellow lines.
Well, I mean, I would vote
There's-
for
there's
that.
three.
I think it's possible.
I think that's a dead in the
I think it's
water.
difficult, yeah.
I've got Torview Avenue again.
The whole of Manor House Road.
Drainage at the top of Silver Street.
Drainage everywhere.
In general.
Silver Street and Bear Lane and
Drainage in general.
Yes.
it's only just been done.
But we've already been on that, haven't we?
Oh, I know. Yeah.
But it's another one where huge puddles
Yes.
and you have to avoid it as a pedestrian or.
Yes.
Yeah.
After Unity, you might get to do it yourself.
I've got the dropped curb in Cottle Close.
Yeah, I'll go with that one. I see the sense in that.
I think that could be a quick win.
Mm-hmm.
Manor House Road jamming up is what I've written down, which
Yes.
I've experienced when I've tried to drop off agendas to councillors on Manor House Road. It's a bit of a nightmare.
There are double yellows on one side of Manor House Road, aren't they? Which is why you've got all that on the left-hand side going up.
On both sides.
So you can't really do any,
No, you can't park it.
you couldn't do it anywhere else.
So, councillors, what I would say is that none of these issues are going to go away. All we're trying to find is the ones that we would like the councillors to take up immediately. And as these get resolved by the new and efficient and wonderful county council that we've got, that's got loads of money and saving lots of money for us and sorting it all out,
We've got no money.
we will be able to move through all of these issues.
Could I just make a suggestion that it seems like some of these issues are safety issues, and so they could be sort of higher up, and others are to do with traffic flow or parking or convenience.
It is true, but we're just giving Connor an indication of which ones he's... So, Connor.
Oh. Beer Lane, Fisher's Hill Junction, mini roundabout.
I think that's a great idea. We should call it the Lilith roundabout. Cottle Close, Lilith roundabout. We get it there.
Well, that isn't a suggestion. I just noted highways rubbish. Do you mean legislation? That made me laugh.
A pedestrian crossing.
At the base of Weiriel Hill.
Yes.
Where the gate is, I think that's...
Yes, sorry, yes. Where the gate is, just opposite Tor Leisure.
Makes sense.
Might be some red tape on that one.
Yeah. Could that be reframed as a review of that bit of street road by Morrison's? Because you're looking at the zebra crossing this way a bit just before the car wash, then something right there, which is just the other side of that junction, and then the corner of that.
It could be framed that way. That was fairly... I think there's only one person didn't put their hand up there. Was it two?
No, for a pedestrian crossing that side, I would. Yeah.
I think there was only one person who didn't. That's what I was saying.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, that was a popular one too, right, okay. What's that one? I've got Rowley Road 50 to 22 W lines. I've got Old Wells Road resurfacing.
That is crazy.
And speed limit, there's a speed limit and some double yellow lines down the bottom as well.
Well, let's get those potholes done first.
I'll add that all in.
And then I've got water on Gypsy Lane.
Yeah, that's lethal.
Yeah, I'm surprised no one's crashed their car back in there. But that's one we've gone to many times, Connor, in the past.
A lot of money's been spent there already. So it's going to, that's the problem with...
We just need to dig a big gully on that side and let it run down. Do a ream, build a ream.
It's the problem when they have stemmed so many springs. They just let the springs alone and actually let them channel, but they keep...
We think this might be part of the main from the reservoir to the pump. See?
So it's a private, would that be a private issue?
Bristol Water.
It's what they've done a lot of work
They
there.
never admitted responsibility.
No, they didn't.
Wow.
Right. Are we done?
I think so. I can. What I will do is when I type up these notes, I will start with the most important, and I'll work my way
Thank you.
down to the
Paul.
list.
There was one that Michael mentioned that I think is quite important, and that's the, I would say roundabout, but it isn't actually there anymore, at the bottom where Portugal Road meets the Beckery.
Yeah, the roundabouts, they need redoing.
Yeah, it's completely disappeared, and the signage and lighting is really poor. So if you don't know the area, people will go straight across there without.
Yeah.
So that's right next to the timber yard.
Yeah, it's on the corner by
Do you know that one?
Michael did
Connor?
say all the mini roundabouts.
Oh, it'd be good for Connor to just bring that up.
Yes.
So just by the old house there.
Yeah, basically.
There, you can see it. It's got a roundabout there. There, that one's disappeared.
No, this one here, it's not even there, lad.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, there's one there right by the end of
You're
Park
right.
Farm Road.
It fooled me.
It's not even there.
If you go the next bit through the gap there to Lighthouse Lane.
That where Park, Lighthouse
that one.
Portisol.
So everybody just like drives over that because it's too hard to get around the corner.
Not that one.
Yeah, no, that's one.
You've got two there.
It's there. You can see that it's kind of supposed to be there.
Yeah.
It's got the roundabout.
Yeah.
Really?
So if you zoom in there, zoom in there,
Yeah, just two.
and you'll see.
Here.
No, up a bit. There.
There.
It says even the round bit there. You see?
You've never been down there, have you? Or not for a long time?
I've totally been down there.
So it does. Oi! Almost.
It's a ghost of roundabout.
Oh yeah. Funny little thing. I've driven that way a few times. I've never noticed that.
There you go.
You never gave way.
Actually on a cycle path. Yeah. Cycle route, sorry.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Well done, Paul.
Well spotted, Michael. That's a good. Drive over it and none of us notice it.
So, councillors, we've had a very good session. I think there's been some really good points made. We will keep this list and we will come back to it. And as our two county councillors sort this out with its speed, then we will be able to get all the things sorted. So at 9 o'clock, I declare the meeting closed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A long day.
God, it was